Hello everyone, this is Blast Process at Crash 2022, that's got the right year, and I'm here with Jason of Ionian Games. And this is very interesting, and we actually saw this in the video for Spectrum 40 of 2022 Go to 40, but I didn't really cover it very well. But now I've got him, we've tied him to the chair, and you'll explain to us what's going on, because it's quite interesting what is going on at quite several levels.
Yes, this is my latest game called Gnash-Man Party, and it's obviously slightly inspired by another popular game. But
it does look familiar.
It does look familiar, yes. But this is a 4-player version. I've seen this sort of thing done. I think there was a Nintendo GameCube one.
It was a GameCube and
where you had 3 controllers and the 4th guy plugged in a Game Boy Advance. That's it, to view the maze. But I've written this for the Spectrum, and we're using 2 displays here. And the way this works is there's a couple of guys have come up with these devices. This one's using a ZX VGA Joy, and Ben Vestige does ZX HD. And both of these devices plug in, and they basically mirror the memory of the 128K Spectrum, and then produce their own high-definition video version of the screen. So the ZX HD one does HD output, the VGA Joy does VGA output, and they're designed for plugging into a monitor or a TV to get a better version of the picture.
Right.
But
that's of the one screen that you generated.
That's only the one screen, yes. And on the 128K Spectrum, you've got 2 screen memories, and you can display one or the other. And the interface is designed to follow you and display the right screen. But if you know a bit about the differences between a grey Spectrum 2A and the black one, there's some slightly different ways they respond to the address you write to flip the screens. And there's certain commands you can do that only the grey one will respond to and the black one won't respond to. And similarly, the grey will respond to some screen swapping and the cartridge doesn't. The cartridge interface is based around the black plus 2A, the later Spectrum.
Right.
So I can make this grey Spectrum swap screens, and the interface output doesn't. So that interface,
You've got 2 outputs.
That interface, yeah, is now fooled into displaying the wrong screen memory on the VGA port, and on the Spectrum's RGB or its RF output, you see the other screen.
You've written basically the most niche game possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And it gets worse when you try and plug in 4 joystick interfaces to it.
Yeah, that's another thing, because, correct me if I'm wrong, because I never had a plus 2, I had a 1 to 8, now the plus 2.
Yeah.
But it had 2 joystick ports?
It's got 2 joystick ports, the Sinclair 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And there's a Kempston joystick interface in there as well. In fact, there's one built into the VGA Joy. So that's 3 inputs. Then you struggle a bit.
Yeah.
So there was a conversation a long time ago about what we can do about this, and some people suggested the fuller joystick interface, which is an older one. But fuller joystick interfaces themselves, the original ones, clash. You can't use them with anything else.
Right.
They're quite terrible. What we came up with is the idea of taking an original Kempston joystick interface and swapping some of the wiring inside. So instead of responding to IN31, it responds to IN55. So there's actually a modified joystick interface there where I've crossed a couple of wires inside the Kempston one, and it responds to a different port number. So you can actually use it alongside a regular Kempston interface, and they don't clash, they don't interfere. So you've got 2 separate joysticks.
Yeah, say you've got the most niche game possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah. Because it is very. I haven't actually put this out for anyone else to play in public, because it takes a very peculiar set of controls to do it.
Yeah, that's my next question was going to be along those lines, because we sometimes see some things we go to. We see games that kind of tickle our fancy because they're a bit interesting. This tickles my fancy because the Spectrum's not supposed to be doing this.
Yes, it's not supposed to be doing any of this. And if you notice that, although the Ghost Views maze isn't, the Gnash-Man, nearly did it go wrong there, Gnash-Man's view of the maze is actually in full 8x2 multicolour.
Yes. I am noticing...
There's multicolour graphics on here, and the maze is different every time, it's randomly generated.
Yeah, because I was spotting the fact that they've got multiple colours on the exit to the actual cage that the actual ghost is in.
Yeah.
I'm seeing things You're giving me some strange flashbacks here, because back when I was at school, there was a chap there who managed to walk around with master interrupts and have coloured bars spinning around in the borders and things, which at the time was like, that was witchcraft.
Yes.
But now you're trying to do witchcraft in 2022.
Well, that's it. I mean, Buzzsaw over there, the first game, that was the first game to actually be having multicolour sprites in the game. I mean, it's been used in demo effects and on title screens, but no one had written a game about them. That was my thought, was a game, come up with a game, because this effect takes up like 2/3 of the processing time, just to maintain that effect on the screen.
It's thinking all the resources and just have more colour.
So the main thing with Buzzsaw was to think of, could you think of a game that you could you could run on a ZX81 without taxing it, it's simple, and then write that game around the video, because the ZX81 had the same problem. Its screen was generated by the processor, by the CPU. It didn't have a separate chip generating the video. When the ZX81 screen is being displayed, every line on the screen, the processor is involved in rendering that. So that's why the ZX81 is pretty slow.
Yes, you've got his attention doing
because
that.
Its attention is actually re-displaying the screen. And it's the same case with multicolour. So again, back in the days, the sort of 80s and 90s, everyone was trying to mimic the latest arcade games, which had, full screen scrolling and hundreds of sprites.
Sprites or thousands of
where, things like hardly anyone was doing something like Tetris, which you can do in just colour blocks, it's that simple. So again, Buzzsaw was the idea of having something simple with just a few moving sprites, but do it all in pushing colour. And the other thing people don't realise about that as well is that it's actually a 48K game, and all the sound effects are generated from the beeper as well. As people say, why doesn't it have music? It's like, well, it's a 48K, it's not a 128K game. It does actually do it's doing the sound as well as the colour effects.
Spectrum computing?
Yeah.
That's where you hang out?
Yes.
And updates, continuous updates, that's where you check you out?
Yes. You look at the name Joefish, if not known to Jason.
Joefish?
Joefish.
Joefish?
The middle name's Joseph, and apparently when I was very young I couldn't say it properly. So Joefish is the online name.
I'll follow. So, Joefish at spectrumcomputing.co.uk.
Yes.
There you go, folks.
We got it up. It's alright, you can edit a lot of that.
Have a challenge, try and install this yourself.